Hello, my name's Ben,
And my name's Josh.
and welcome back to FPL graduates, and welcome back to the video that you have been waiting for this year. It is our game week one team reveals. FPL is finally here. We're back. It's going to be good. We're really excited for it. So, without further ado, let's get straight into Josh's team.
Yeah, we're so excited. Even Ben's poster fell off his wall. It's going crazy in here for for game week one. But yeah, getting into my team. As you guys, if you have followed the channel for a while, if you're new here, I am on a bench boost game week one strategy. The plan is to then wildcard in game week four. So after the first international break of the season. Main reason I just want to get the bench boost out of the way. It's a terrible chip. So yeah, let's get into it. Sells in goal then. Brentford at home. First game of the season, I'm doubling that up with Nico Williams. Obviously, we haven't really seen too much of this new Brentford side with Keith Andrews in charge. What I do know, though, is that Nottingham Forest are a fantastic defence last season. They've kept 4 out of 6 clean sheets in pre-season as well. They're struggling to score goals. And if they're struggling to score goals, they're going to have to be tight at the back if they're going to get any sort of result there. So for me, doubling up is absolutely fine, especially across the first 3. Their fixtures are actually quite decent. So more than happy to have both of them. I could switch Sales for Sanchez, but with Levi Colwill's injury, I'm quite put off by that at the moment just because I feel like Chelsea could concede in all of those games. I just feel like that's very plausible. So Sales and Williams doubling up, going big, not going home. Next to them, we've got Van der Ven. He's obviously off the back of a goal in the Super Cup. It's his first goal in 15 months, so not hoping for anything really that similar against Burnley. It would be nice though. Obviously 4.5 million. It's going to be interesting with this Spurs team. Obviously seeing how they set up against PSG. Me and Ben were discussing off camera. We're probably going to see it similar to what Thomas Frank did at Brentford, a different system for different opponents. You know, City in game week 2, we're probably going to see this 5 back we saw against PSG. Against Burnley, I'd expect that to revert back to that 4 at the back formation that we've seen in pre-season. So yeah, interesting stuff from Spurs, but definitely more threat from them at set pieces, which is going to be really good. And considering the price points of those defenders, we then have Juve as well, Sunderland way, super high attacking threat. We've seen it in pre-season. He also links up with one of the players that I've got in my draft as well. So if they could link up for a goal and an assist on the opening weekend, that would be lovely. I'll cover off the bench as well because obviously it is a bench boost. Kelleher's in goal. He's got a knock at the time of recording. I'll wait on a presser for that. If he is going to be ruled out, hopefully Dubravka is going to be ruled fit. If not him, then it will probably be Bart Verbruggen in that sort of goalkeeper bench position. We've got Reinders next as well. Obviously, 5.5 mil seems like a bit of a steal for him. He is a bit of a minutes risk. I'm not confident of a start, really. So he could become a different player. There's a few options at 5.5 million. Elliot Anderson, one that's very, very safe. But I'm probably going to chase the upside with Reinders and hope that he gets that start. With Kovacic injured, Rodri injured, there is more minutes available in that Manchester City midfield. Michael Keane is next. Again, I'm going to have to wait for an update on Jared Branthwaite with him. Just trying to get into these defences at a cheaper price. I think, well, Keane at the back end of last season in those 7 games that he played when Branthwaite was out, he actually outscored Tarkowski and got 5 defcons to Tarkowski's 2. So in terms of upside of a pick, if Brantwaite's ruled out for a long time, Keane could be a really nice answer to that at 4.5 million. And then we do have De Kuiper as well. He's picked up a goal in pre-season, very attacking data, good attacking data, should I say, from the Belgium league. Happy to have him on a bench boost as well. So yeah, that's all of the defenders and goalkeepers. Ben, what's your thoughts on those?
Yeah, certainly a lot of defenders and goalkeepers for the bench boost in game week one. Yeah, I think the Nottingham Forest double up is going to be different in its own right, and probably the best way to capitalize and maximize on what you're doing. Yeah, I mean, the only sort of thing you would say is there's not like a premium defender in there, but for your squad structure, it's going to be very difficult to be able to get that in and maintain a balanced squad. So understandable why you've not gone with that so far. It obviously just means then that an early wild card is going to be likely for you in this situation. But yeah, I think all the options there are solid and got their own merit and reasons why you'd go for them. Obviously, there's an element of unknown with Diouf. There's an element of unknown with De Kuiper and maybe a little bit with Keane, but we know that at the back end of the season, Everton weren't too bad defensively. So, yeah, all in all, fairly solid. And it's just one of those ones you just need to make sure that everyone is absolutely certainly playing when it comes around to it.
Yeah, 100%. And then moving on to the midfield, then this is where a bit more of the money has been spent. We'll start off with Iliman and Jai. He's pretty nailed, in my opinion, to start for Everton, at least for game week 1, which is obviously the main thing for me on this bench boost. Penalty taker as well. He's looked great in pre-season. I've been quite impressed by him. I've watched him quite a bit because I've been watching the summer series. So yeah, he's in there with Leeds away on that Monday night, which should be good. Bukayo Saka's in there. I've gone for him over Cole Palmer just because, like we saw last season, I've banged on about this loads when talking about Cole Palmer. When he plays in the 10, he's just not as FPL relevant as when he plays off the right, like we saw in the Club World Cup final, for example. He still will get FPL returns in the middle, but just not as many as he does when he's playing off the right. So I'm going to chance it, go with Bukayo Saka for these opening 3. It gives me the best captaincy option, in my opinion, as well in game week 2, where he's got Leeds at home. So it's, again, a nice differential compared to the masses, where they're probably going to be captaining maybe Salah away to Newcastle, or maybe even Cole Palmer with West Ham, I think, away in game week 2. So yeah, for me, Saka's in there on that basis, and potentially having to share pens with Gyökeres. We'll have to wait and see when they get one on that, but I'm willing to take the open play goal threat and assist threat from him in those opening 3. Fernandes is up next, obviously hoping for both teams to score in that Manchester United Arsenal game in game week 1. I think, like we explained in the no Salah, no Haaland draft, if you haven't seen that already, do check it out. Fernandes' route to points is probably the most out of most players in the game. He's got DEFCON, he's got penalties, he's got set pieces, he's got assist threat, he's got goal threat. He's got it all. So that's why he's 9 million, and that's why he's been in my team for a few weeks now. And then Cody Gakpo is my Liverpool coverage. I won't even call it Salah coverage because it's just impossible to do so. At 7.5 million, I think he's a decent price point. What I am worried about is that Ekitike and Wirtz, when we saw in the Community Shield, they were coming over to the left. We need Cody Gakpo to be a lot more isolated to be able to get those attacking returns. Obviously, he did come close a couple of times, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the goal share is spread out amongst those Liverpool attackers this year compared to seasons gone by. What's the thoughts on midfield, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, fairly solid again in terms of the midfield. In Dye, I agree with your thought process there. I don't think his minutes will be in danger in game week 1 at least. Same for Cody Gakpo. I think if you weren't on a bench boost and you were setting this team out for a number of weeks, Cody Gakpo almost becomes a transfer waiting to happen, because it's a case of, you know, when he starts getting rotated out or not. If, especially if Alexander Isak makes that move over to Liverpool. Bruno Fernandes is always going to be a solid FPL option, regardless of form, fixtures, etc. He's always going to be able to produce a decent floor and a very, very high ceiling, which is nice. And then, yeah, interesting what you're thinking, your thought process behind Bukayo Saka. Of course, a risk to go without Palmer, just given the ownership levels, but Saka, the numbers do speak for himself, and last season, despite sort of a limited number of minutes, the goal involvement was fairly good. So yeah, interesting to see how that one plays out. I think for at least game week 1, all of those are going to be very secure in those minutes.
Yeah, and then on to the forward line then. We're going Erling Haaland over Mohamed Salah for the opening 3. Wolves away, I think, is a fixture that's gone under the radar in the community. Just Wolves pre-season's been awful. They still haven't replaced their wing. Well, they've replaced one wing back. They don't have a replacement for Semedo at right wing back. So, yeah, I'm hoping that City can capitalise on that and sort of score some goals. Haaland's been in decent form over the Club World Cup and in pre-season. He's sort of picking up a goal here and there, which is fine by me. If we're one return behind Salah after game week 1, I'd still take that, to be honest, as we stand. Fulkrug's next, Sunderland away. He's the guy who's going to get on the end of Juice Cross against Sunderland in game week 1, which will be lovely. 6 million. I think when Paqueta's off the pitch, there's actually a chance of him being on penalties. He took the first one in the shootout when Paqueta wasn't there. So that's something to think about if you're considering a cheaper price forward. I think for game week 1, he's absolutely fine, but after that, I'm not so keen on him, hence why he'll probably just go back to the bench. And then Ollie Watkins rounds off the team. Again, banging form in pre-season. It feels like the first time in a while that he's had a full pre-season to actually get ready for the season. So, yeah, really happy to have him ready and waiting against Newcastle at home on the lunchtime kickoff on Saturday. What's the thoughts on that front line, Ben?
Yeah, very solid front line, and you've managed to invest a decent amount of money in the front line without compromising the bench boost too much, which is nice to be able to see. I mean, Watkins is going to be in so many teams come game week 1. He's the best striker option, in my opinion, to go for, possibly even above Haaland in some instances over the first few games of the season, because like I said, the fixtures are good and the form looks really good as well. Fulkrug's going to be a really interesting option. West Ham, then they're not a team renowned for goal scoring, so we'll have to see if they can, share the goals around a little bit more rather than sort of Bowen being the main source. Yeah, I mean, he's looked good in pre-season, and at that price point, you can't really get anything better than that as well. So, yeah, I think it's a low risk move to have him in there as well. And then, of course, Haaland up top with the captaincy, going against the grain a little bit with your premiums. But, you could be a couple of thousand in the world after, the first few game weeks, or you could be a couple of million. It's really going to be as simple as that. So it's exciting, and we'll just have to wait and see on it. Okay, so moving on into my team, and there's no bench boost planned for game week 1. We're going to leave that a little bit further down the line for myself, I think. In goal, we've got Sanchez from Chelsea at 5 million. He's, a really decent price point into that Chelsea defence, which was third or fourth best in the league last season. So can't complain too much about that. And I think he is a decent option for that goalkeeper position. Sort of dabbled around with a few 4.5s, but I do want that Chelsea coverage, so I'm more than happy to invest that money in him. Van Dijk at centre back. I mean, for Liverpool, and pre-season didn't look great for them in terms of conceding goals, but we do know what Van Dijk is like. We do know what Liverpool's like, and I do think they're going to pick up clean sheets and DEFCON points, and of course there's that attacking threat as well. So it looks on the face of it a fairly boring pick, but I think it's a fairly safe pick as well. You can't win FPL in the first few game weeks, but you can certainly lose. So I didn't want to take too many risks in my opening team, which is a reason for going with him and going for Murillo. 5.5 million, minutes secured, DEFCON high. A little bit of a theme sort of emerging within that defence. And then to round that off, Van der Ven, who is going to be a really great option this year if he can keep fit. So more than happy to own him for Spurs' decent opening start. Obviously, with Thomas Frank, there is a higher emphasis on set pieces. And of course, he scored in the Super Cup as well, which probably not going to help the ownership levels. I'd ideally like them to keep a little bit lower than they're going to be by the deadline. But that is the game, unfortunately. So, yeah, Josh, I'm keen to get your thoughts on that back four.
Yeah, I think it's really solid. Murillo, I absolutely love. 5.5, and he eats up DEFCON for breakfast, that bloke. So, yeah, really, really nice pick there. Van der Ven I love as well. I think for 4.5 million, you can't really get much better for value. Like you mentioned as well, the set-piece threat from Spurs this season is going to be really interesting. Brentford scored a lot of goals from set-pieces last year. I expect that to transition over this season to Spurs. Van Dijk's the interesting one for me. Obviously, he does really well on DEFCON. Like you say, he's very safe. I'd just be tempted by Frimpong with the attacking upside. And then, obviously, Bradley has a knock, so I just can't see one. We thought Bradley would start the season because he's obviously been playing there. Now that he's injured and Frimpong's had to start, I just don't see how he's going to get displaced from the team too much until we get around to that sort of Champions League football stage. So yeah, I think it could be more exciting than Van Dijk, but equally, obviously, like you say, you can play it safe and get the clean sheet points in the DEFCON with Van Dijk.
Okay, so moving on into midfield, and well, certainly interesting to know that about Connor Bradley and Frimpong. We'll have to wait and see on that. But in the midfield, we've got another couple of Liverpool players. So we've tripled up on Liverpool to start the season. Possibly a little bit of a risk because if we get an emerging asset like Ekitike, like Gakpo, I've got to make potentially a couple of moves to facilitate them. But Florian Wirtz in there, I've been really sort of encouraged by his performances in pre-season. I do think he's going to potentially become and take that mantle of the main man at Liverpool over the course of the season, which is going to be really interesting to see, especially at that fairly sort of good value price point. Mohamed Salah in there as captain as well. A lot of managers sort of going off of him after the Community Shield. In isolation, fine, can understand that, but we know how relentless and how good Salah has been over the last few seasons. I don't think that's, one game in isolation should be something to worry about. So yeah, he's on my captaincy at the moment with Cole Palmer in there as well. So my two premiums completely different to Josh's two premiums, and I do think Chelsea are going to mount a title challenge this year. So I do is going to be instrumental in that. So really interesting to see how they line up with so many attackers, but Cole Palmer is going to be at the centre of everything that Chelsea do. I got Reinders in there from Manchester City. I do actually think his minutes are fairly secure, just with the injuries that Manchester City have in midfield. Of course, we saw Rodri picked up an injury. Whether he picks up that Rodri position, we'll wait and see. He got a couple of goals in pre-season, so with 5.5 million getting potentially a lot of minutes from that Manchester City midfield, there could be some great value there for us. And then to round off the midfield is a guy that I'm pretty excited to own this season. It's Ismaila Sarr. A lot of managers, I think, were put off because of the lack of returns when owned by the majority last season, but his expected goal involvements last season were through the roof for a 6.5 million midfielder. So I do think he's going to cash in on that XGI from last season and really kick on again this year. Palace look fairly decent as well. Of course, got a return in the Community Shield too. So yeah, that's the guy I'm really excited about to own this season. Of course, clashes a little bit with Sanchez in game week 1, but that's one of those ones where you're not going to be able to avoid it if I'm so hot on Sarr and Chelsea doing well this season. Josh, what's your thoughts on the midfield?
Yeah, it's really nice. Obviously, Salah's a fantastic pick. Just because I don't own him, doesn't mean I don't think he's any good. I will definitely be owning him by game week 4, that's for sure. Cole Palmer, obviously, I mentioned. I do agree with what you're saying. I do think Chelsea will be amongst that title race. I just think from the way that they play, like he'll be instrumental in non-FPL ways as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see for sure though. Wirtz has been fantastic. He's someone that I'd like to own, but just a little bit too expensive on the bench boost strategy, unfortunately. Sarr, I agree with what you're saying. I think for the price point, you can't get much better. It's just very irritating for game week 1 for him to clash with Sanchez straight away. It's obviously something we try and avoid. But yeah, if you're big on both of them, then obviously hopefully one of them will come out on top come game week 1.
Okay, so rounding off the team and the strike force, we've got Ollie Watkins as well, which, like I said in Josh's team, I think he's the best striker option in FPL. Also got João Pedro because, to be honest, the form in pre-season I can't ignore. And I've said previously, try not to fall into the trap of going for players who look good in pre-season, but he's literally just scored with every game that he's playing at the moment. So I am going with him as well. So yeah, it's interesting. And then on the bench, we've got Dubravka, we've got Diouf, Esteve, and Gui from Sunderland. So of course, there is a thought process to potentially bench Ismaila Sarr for game week 1. For one of my defenders, Diouf, of course, has great attacking threat. And the fixture doesn't get better than playing Sunderland first game of the season with about 25 new players. So yeah, that's one of my sort of thought processes at the moment. I'm not the biggest fan, and Josh mentioned this in a previous video, of owning that double up Burnley defence of Dubravka and Esteve. So I may move on to a different £4 million defender, and then Marco Gui, whether he starts in game week 1, probably not, but not many managers are going to look to transfer out their 4.5 million third bench player after not getting a start in game week 1. So not too concerned about that anyway. Josh, what's the overall thoughts on the team?
Yeah, I think it's very solid overall. João Pedro for me is just that I could just see that game being 0-0, 60 minutes, the lap comes on. I think there's also a chance that Pedro plays on the left with the lap through the middle like we saw in the Club World Cup. So positionally as well, I think there's a little risk there to where he's going to play. But obviously 50% of FPL managers are keen on him. He's the second highest owned player in the game. So yeah, I can understand why people are going for him with the level of goal scoring that we've seen from him since he's come to Chelsea. I think the only thing that would be maybe a question mark is the 4.5 defenders, how they rotate. Because obviously I think Juve and Van der Ven have a great first game week fixture. They go to Chelsea, West Ham go to Chelsea, Spurs go to City. you could play Esteve against Sunderland, but then you're going to have that Burnley double up. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how you navigate that. But other than that, it's a really, really good team. I think you do well for Game Week 1. Okay, then, so that wraps up our Game Week 1 team reveals. The season has finally come around. We're ready and waiting. Tonight at 6:30 p.m, the deadline will shut and all of that tinkering will end. Are you excited, Ben?
Yeah, very excited. It's been far too long without FPL, so we can really get cracking into this season. It's going to be a good year. There's going to be lots of content coming your way from us. So, as always, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the FPL graduates. I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
And we'll see you guys
next time. Have a good game week, everyone.
But I'm not